Four unmarked SUVs crawl through the dusty streets of Pine Valley, New Mexico. Their target, 11-year-old Sophie Martinez. Their plan, a simple kidnapping to force her grandmother to reveal hidden Marine Corps intelligence. Their fatal mistake, assuming the Belgian Malinois they've observed through surveillance photos is just another family pet. They didn't realize Rex has 3 combat tours in Iraq, 43 confirmed enemy neutralizations, and was once called Ghost by the Marine Corps Elite K9 unit. By sunset today, 5 men will be in critical condition, a cartel operation will crumble, and New Mexico's largest organized crime takedown will be set in motion. All because Carlos Vega's organization made one critical error in judgment. They saw Rex as just another dog. But some warriors never retire, some guardians never rest, and some threats come with 4 legs, battle-hardened instincts, and a promise to a fallen handler that no harm would ever come to his little girl. Let's take a quick break. Tell us where you're tuning in from. If this kind of content speaks to you, don't forget to subscribe because tomorrow's story is something truly special. The New Mexico morning spreads its golden fingers across the quiet streets of Pine Valley, touching the Martinez family's modest ranch house on the outskirts of town. Sophie Martinez stands at her bedroom window, watching Rex perform his morning perimeter check, a routine the Belgian Malinois hasn't missed in 3 years. His powerful frame moves with fluid grace, each step precise, each pause calculated. He's doing it again, isn't he? Rosa Martinez's voice carries from the doorway, warm with understanding. The silver-haired woman joins her granddaughter at the window, coffee mug in hand. Sophie nods, tracking Rex's movement. 3 laps, always clockwise, checking each corner twice. Just like Dad taught him. Rosa's hand finds Sophie's shoulder, squeezing gently. Your father knew what he was doing when he arranged for Rex to come live with us. The morning ritual continues below as Rex completes his patrol. To anyone else, he might look like an ordinary family pet, albeit an unusually disciplined one. But Sophie knows better. She's seen the scars beneath his fur, heard him whimper in his sleep during thunderstorms that sound too much like mortar fire. Time for breakfast, Rosa announces. You've got that science test today. In the kitchen, Rex takes his usual position near the back door, his alert eyes scanning between windows while Sophie eats her cereal. 3 years of civilian life haven't dulled his training. If anything, they've sharpened his protective instincts. Remember when he first arrived? Sophie asks, pushing her empty bowl away. He wouldn't even sleep unless he could see both doorways. Rosa begins clearing the dishes. Those first few months were tough on all of us, losing your father, Rex losing his handler. But you two helped each other heal. The memory surfaces unbidden. That rainy afternoon when 2 uniformed officers stood at their door. The news about David Martinez's final Marine Corps operation. The folded flag. The letter explaining his last wish for his military K9 partner to watch over his family. Rex had arrived a week later, still recovering from the firefight that had claimed David's life. The dog's left leg carried a slight limp, and his eyes held the same haunted look Sophie saw in the mirror. A car door slams outside, pulling Sophie back to the present. Rex's ears prick forward, his posture shifting subtly. Through the window, they spot an unfamiliar black SUV driving past, the 4th this week. Just new neighbors, probably, Rosa says, but her tone carries an edge of concern. Sophie grabs her backpack and Rex moves to his pre-departure position by the front door. This too is part of their routine. He'll watch her walk to the bus stop, then resume his guard duties at home. Love you, abuela, Sophie calls out, heading for the door. Love you too, mija. Remember, Mrs. Thompson is picking you up after school today. I've got that meeting at the clinic. Outside, the morning sun has burned away the last traces of dawn. Sophie walks down their long driveway, Rex watching from the porch. Neither of them notices the dark sedan parked 2 blocks away, or the man inside speaking quietly into a phone. Target's leaving for school now. The dog stays with the house during the day. Everything's proceeding according to plan. In the kitchen, Rosa Martinez pulls an old photo from her pocket. Her son David in his Marine uniform, kneeling beside a younger Rex in tactical gear. Their last photo together, taken just before the mission that would change everything. "Watch. Over her old soldier," she whispers, noting another unfamiliar car rolling past their house. Her hand drifts to the locked drawer where she keeps her late son's service weapon. 20 years as an ER nurse taught her to trust her instincts, and right now, those instincts are screaming that trouble is coming. Rex's low growl from the porch confirms her fears. In the distance, Sophie's yellow school bus disappears around a corner, while in the shadows of Pine Valley's quiet streets, dangerous men begin moving their pieces into position. The morning sun climbs higher, casting long shadows across the town. Shadows that hide secrets, threats, and the first moves of a game that will explode into violence before sunset. The war dog on the porch maintains his watch, unaware that his next battle is about to begin. But deep in his warrior's heart, where training meets instinct, Rex remains ready. Ready to protect, ready to serve, ready to prove that some soldiers never truly retire. They just find new battles to fight and new people to protect. The black SUV idles behind an abandoned gas station 2 miles from the Martinez home. Inside, Carlos Vega studies satellite images on his laptop while 4 men gear up around him. His steel-gray eyes scan the property layout as he speaks into a secure phone. "The intelligence has to be there somewhere," Vega says, his cultured voice carrying none of the tension visible in his grip on the phone. Alex Torres, former Special Forces turned cartel enforcer, checks his weapon beside him. "What about the dog? Military K9s can be unpredictable," Torres questions, adjusting his tactical vest. "It's been 3 years since it served. Now it's just a pet. Focus on the grandmother. She's the key." At Pine Valley Elementary, Sophie sits in her science class, but her attention keeps drifting to the window. Something feels off today. During morning recess, she'd spotted 2 men watching the playground from a parked car. When Ms. Thompson asked them to leave, they'd smiled too widely and driven away too slowly. "Sophie?" Ms. Thompson's voice breaks through her thoughts. "The periodic table question?" "Sorry, Ms. Thompson, could you repeat it?" Back at the Martinez home, Rex's behavior has changed. The Belgian Malinois moves from window to window, his movements sharp and focused. Military training kicks in as he catalogues unusual patterns. 3 unknown vehicles making repeated passes, the subtle shift of shadows behind the tree line, the faint scent of gun oil on the breeze. Rosa Martinez notices too. 20 years as an ER nurse taught her to read signs. She makes a call to Sheriff Kate Wilson, an old family friend who worked with her son. "Kate, something's not right today. David always said if anything felt off." "Numbers, I'll run some checks," Wilson promises. "Any specific concerns?" "Unfamiliar vehicles, men watching the house. Could be nothing but..." She pauses. "David's instincts saved lives, and you've got them too." In her office at the Pine Valley Sheriff's Department, Wilson pulls up David Martinez's last service files. Her eyes narrow at a flagged notice. Increased cartel activity near Pine Valley. Recent intelligence suggests they're searching for something. Mr. Rodriguez, watching from his kitchen window next door, spots 2 men in utility uniforms approaching his house. Something about their walk sets off warning bells. These aren't real utility workers. "Sorry, boys," he calls through the door. "I'm calling the company to verify first." They leave too quickly, their frustration visible. Mr. Rodriguez's hand shakes slightly as he dials Rosa's number. Rosa. Those men who just left. They were carrying weapons under their jackets. Rex's growl draws Rosa to the living room window. A service van parks across the street, but the dog's reaction tells her everything she needs to know. Her son had taught Rex to recognize threats, and right now, every line of the dog's body screams danger. At the abandoned gas station, Vega receives confirmation. The grandmothers made a call to law enforcement. "We move now, sir," Torres interjects. "Broad daylight is exactly why they won't expect it. Get the girl at school pickup. Once we have her, the grandmother will cooperate." Sophie, unaware of the closing net, raises her hand in class. "Miss Thompson, may I use the restroom?" In the hallway, she spots another unfamiliar man speaking to the front office staff. His smile doesn't reach his eyes, and his suit fits too well for a substitute teacher. More concerning is the earpiece he's trying to hide. At home, Rosa makes a decision. She opens the locked drawer, removing David's service weapon and a sealed envelope he'd left with specific instructions: open only if they come for the intelligence. Rex suddenly goes still, his attention locked on the back door. His training recognizes the sound. Multiple boots on gravel, trying to move quietly. In her office, Sheriff Wilson's computer pings.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
The plates from the suspicious vehicles match known cartel affiliates. Her blood runs cold as she connects the dots. Today marks 3 years since David Martinez's last mission. "Get units to Pine Valley Elementary now," she barks into her radio, already running for her car. And someone warn Rosa Martinez, they're not just watching anymore. Creating and sharing this story took us considerable effort, so if you're enjoying it, please subscribe. Your support means everything to us. Now let's continue with the story. The afternoon sun hangs heavy over Pine Valley as all the pieces begin moving at once. At the school, Sophie feels the net tightening. At home, Rex and Rosa prepare for unwelcome visitors, and across town, Carlos Vega issues the order that will turn a quiet New Mexico afternoon into a war zone. None of them realize that this is exactly what David Martinez planned for. In the sealed envelope beneath Rosa's trembling fingers lies not just intelligence, but a carefully laid trap 3 years in the making. The question is, will Rex's training and Rosa's courage be enough to spring it? Sophie Martinez knows something is wrong the moment the fire alarm rings. It's not the standard pause and resume pattern of a drill, but a continuous blare that sends students streaming into the hallways. Through the chaos, she spots the man from the office moving against the flow of traffic, headed straight for her. Classroom. "Everyone out!" Miss Thompson shepherds her students toward the exit. "Stay together." Sophie breaks from the group, remembering her father's words: "If something feels wrong, trust your instincts." She ducks into the library instead of following the evacuation route. Through the windows, she sees black SUVs pulling up to the school's side exits. At home, Rex's ears prick up seconds before Rosa hears the back gate creak. The Belgian Malinois moves silently to his defensive position, muscle memory from hundreds of combat scenarios taking over. Rosa clutches David's sealed envelope and service weapon, backing toward the panic room her son had insisted on installing. "We know you're in there, Mrs. Martinez," a cultured voice calls from outside. "We just want to talk about your son's last case." Rex's growl deepens as boots approach the back door, his tactical training cataloging the threats. 4 sets of footsteps, weapons by their gait, professional by their spacing. "Mrs. Martinez," Carlos Vega calls again, "it would be better for everyone if you cooperate, especially your granddaughter." The mention of Sophie shifts something in Rex's stance. His combat training merges with his protective instincts as the first lock clicks. Sheriff Wilson's cruiser screams down Pine Valley streets, sirens wailing. Her radio crackles with updates. Shots fired at the Martinez home, suspicious activity at Pine Valley Elementary, multiple suspects. She's still 8 minutes out. In the school library, Sophie crawls between shelves as voices approach. Her phone vibrates. A text from an unknown number. "Come out now, your grandmother needs you." Her hands shake, but she remembers Rex's training sessions with her father. Stay calm, think, plan. The back door of the Martinez home splinters inward. Rex remains still, using his training to maximum effect. The first man enters, weapon raised. He never sees the shadow detaching from behind the door. 80 pounds of military-trained muscle and bone slam into his gun arm with precision force. "Contact!" the man screams as Rex's teeth find his wrist. Using the exact pressure point his trainers taught him, the weapon clatters away. Rosa seizes her moment, squeezing off 2 warning shots that send the other men diving for cover. "The next ones won't miss," she shouts, her ER nurse training, keeping her voice steady. Outside, Vega responds by reading coordinates into his phone. "Target 2 is moving. All units converge on the school. Get the girl." In the library, Sophie makes her decision. The library's back exit leads to the maintenance yard. If she can, reach the church across the street. A hand grabs her backpack. Sophie reacts instantly, dropping to the ground just as Rex had taught her during their play sessions. The backpack slips off and she rolls under a table. "Little brat!" Alex Torres's frustration shows as he lunges for her. Sophie kicks out at his knee, another move practiced with Rex, and scrambles away. At the house, Rex engages the second intruder. His military training shows in every movement: disable, don't kill, protect the civilians. The man's body armor prevents serious injury, but Rex's impact sends him crashing into a wall. The third man retreats, calling for backup. Rosa uses the chaos to reach the panic room, sealing herself inside with David's envelope. Through the security monitors, she watches Rex in action, finally understanding why her son had called him the unit's best. Emily bursts out of the school's back exit, heart pounding. The maintenance yard stretches before her chain-link fence. Behind her, boots thunder on concrete. Sheriff Wilson arrives at the school just as Sophie reaches the fence, her cruiser screeching to a halt, providing cover as the first shots ring out. "Sophie, down!" Wilson draws her weapon as Torres and his men emerge from the building. At home, Rex stands guard over 2 incapacitated intruders, blood from superficial wounds dripping from his muzzle, his ears pricked toward the distant sound of gunfire. Every instinct screams that Sophie is in danger. In the panic room, Rosa makes her choice. She opens David's envelope, reading the first line of his letter. If you're reading this, they've finally figured it out. But Rex knows what to do. The afternoon sun hangs low as chaos erupts across Pine Valley. At the school, Wilson exchanges fire with Torres's men while Sophie runs for safety. At the house, Rex awaits Rosa's command, knowing his next move will change everything. And in the sealed envelope, David Martinez's last orders begin to reveal a plan 3 years in the making. A plan that depends entirely on the bond between a girl and her dog, and a warrior's promise to protect his family. At all costs, Rosa's hands steady as she reads her son's letter. Years of ER experience keeping her focused despite the chaos outside. Through the panic room's monitors, she watches Rex standing guard over the incapacitated intruders, his training evident in every controlled movement. "Rex, command override Delta 7, she reads aloud, the code phrases David had drilled her on suddenly making sense. The Belgian Malinois' ears prick forward, combat programming activating fully. "Find Sophie, protect, escort to Safe House Alpha." Rex moves instantly, military efficiency in every stride, as he exits through the broken door. Behind him, Rosa continues reading David's letter, her eyes widening at the real reason these men are here. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. At the school, Sophie presses herself against the church's brick wall, heart thundering. Sheriff Wilson's voice carries across the parking lot, demanding the gunmen stand down. More sirens wail in the distance. "The girl's worthless to you now," Wilson shouts, trying to buy time. "We have your men at the house. It's over." Alex Torres' laugh carries an edge of steel. "You don't even know what this is about, Sheriff. This was never about just grabbing a hostage." Sophie peers around the corner, seeing Torres's men taking positions around Wilson's cruiser. Their movements are too professional, too coordinated for ordinary criminals. Her father had taught her to observe details: military-grade gear, tactical formations, encrypted radios. A hand touches her shoulder. Sophie nearly screams before recognizing Mr. Rodriguez. "Back door's open, Mija," he whispers, his gardening club keyring jingling softly. "Father Michael's office has a tunnel from Prohibition days. Your daddy showed it to me last year, said I might need to know about it someday." Across town, Rex moves like a ghost through back alleys, his training allowing him to avoid the additional vehicles now converging on the area. His mission is clear: reach Sophie, establish secure transport, escort to safe house. The battle-proven K9 had run similar protection details in Iraq, though never with stakes this personal. Vega slams his fist against the van's dashboard as reports come in. "What do you mean they're not in the panic room? Where's the dog?" he demands. "Sir," one of his men responds over the radio. "Martinez's letter mentioned something about safe. House Alpha before the woman destroyed it. The dog. It responded to some kind of command code." Vega's eyes narrow. He planned this. Even from the grave, David Martinez is still running the operation. He switches channels. "All units converge on the church, the tunnel system. That's how they moved the intelligence." Inside the church, Mr. Rodriguez guides Sophie through the dark office. "Your father mapped all the Prohibition tunnels last year," he explains, pulling aside a heavy bookcase. "Said if anything happened, I should tell you about his summer project. With Rex." Sophie's mind races. Last summer, her father and Rex had disappeared for hours at a time, claiming they were training. She'd assumed it was regular K9 maintenance training, but now the tunnels connect to 3 possible safe houses, Mr. Rodriguez continues, his earlier fear replaced by calm efficiency. "Rex knows them all. Your father made sure of that." Sheriff Wilson's voice echoes through his radio as backup finally arrives. SWAT teams deploy around the school perimeter while Wilson relays the situation. Multiple armed suspects, military training, possible foreign connections. They're after something specific, something David Martinez hid before his last mission. In the tunnel, Sophie freezes at a familiar sound. Rex's distinct bark pattern, one short, two long, their warning signal. "He's found us," she whispers, relieved, tears threatening. Mr. Rodriguez smiles grimly. "Right on schedule. Your father knew what he was doing, setting all this up. Rex is not just here to protect you, Sophie. He's part of the end game." Above ground, Vega's men begin a systematic search of the area, but they're looking in the wrong places. David Martinez had spent months preparing this contingency, using his Marine Corps knowledge of the old bootlegging routes. Every move today was predicted, planned for, and counted in advance. Rex reaches Sophie immediately, taking point position. His tactical training shines as he leads them through the tunnel system, choosing routes that avoid the weakened sections Mr. Rodriguez marks on an old map. "Your father spent weeks down here with Rex," Mr. Rodriguez explains as they move, teaching him every route, every exit. "The intelligence isn't just documents, Sophie. It's a whole network of information, and Rex is the key to accessing it." Vega, reviewing the situation from his command vehicle, finally understands. "The dog," he growls. "Martinez trained the dog to lead them to different intelligence caches based on specific triggers. That's why he made sure it went to his family." The afternoon sun casts long shadows as multiple forces converge on Pine Valley. SWAT teams secure the school, police establish perimeters, Vega's men continue their search. But underground, a girl, a neighbor and a war dog move steadily towards Safe House Alpha, where the first piece of David Martinez's master plan waits to be revealed. In the panic room, Rosa Martinez allows herself a small smile as she watches the security feeds. David had known this day would come, had spent his last months preparing for it. Now everything depends on Rex's training, Sophie's trust, and the complex web of plans, a dying father left to protect his family and serve justice one final time. Safe House Alpha turns out to be an abandoned ranger station on the outskirts of Pine Valley, carefully hidden behind years of strategic neglect. Rex leads Sophie and Mr. Rodriguez through a concealed entrance. His movements precise and purposeful. Every few minutes he stops to listen, his military training evident in the way he clears each room before allowing them to enter. Your father chose this place carefully, Mr. Rodriguez explains, pulling aside dust-covered sheets to reveal modern surveillance equipment. Used to be a Marine Corps observation post in the 80s, off all the official records now. Creating and preparing this story demanded significant effort and time. If you're enjoying it, please subscribe. Your support truly matters to us. Now, let's continue with the story. Sophie watches Rex move to a specific corner, pawing at the floorboards. He wants us to look there, she says, remembering similar behavior during their training sessions last summer. Smart girl, Mr. Rodriguez nods, helping Sophie lift the loose board. Your father spent 6 months teaching Rex different signal patterns, each one leading to a different piece of intelligence. In the hidden compartment, they find a waterproof case containing a laptop, external drives, and a sealed letter marked Phase 1. The real war was about to begin, and Rex's most important mission was just getting started. Across town, Vega's frustration mounts as his search teams report failure after failure. They're not using any of the obvious routes, he snaps, studying. The tunnel maps. Martinez knew we'd get these blueprints. He planned for it. Sir, Torres radios in. Local SWATs setting up checkpoints. Wilson's coordinating with FBI tactical teams. He's not just coordinating, Vega realizes, watching police movements on his tactical display. Wilson's herding us. Every time we move, he's forcing us away from something. At the police command post, Wilson connects with Rosa via secure line. Your panic room cameras caught something interesting, she says. One of Vega's men was carrying diplomatic credentials. This goes higher than we thought. David knew, Rosa responds, her voice tight. The letter mentioned international scope before I destroyed it. Kate, these aren't just cartel enforcers. They're government trained. Which government? That's what's on the drives, but we need all 3 caches to prove it. In Safe House Alpha, Sophie reads her father's letter while Rex maintains guard position. The Belgian Malinois' ears constantly move, tracking sounds outside while his nose monitors. For unfamiliar scents, Dad says the evidence is split into 3 parts, Sophie explains to Mr. Rodriguez. Each part reveals different pieces of the operation. Rex knows where each cache is, but we can only access them in the right order. Mr. Rodriguez checks the surveillance feeds. Your father was thorough. This first cache proves Vega's organization exists. The second identifies its members. The third reveals their entire operation. Sophie realizes that's why they can't just search everywhere. They need Rex to lead them. Rex's head snaps toward the window, seconds before they hear vehicles approaching. His body language shifts from alert to combat-ready, muscle memory from countless missions taking over. Back entrance, Mr. Rodriguez says quickly, gathering the drives. Rex knows the route to the next position. Vega's voice carries from outside. Building surrounded. We know you're in there, Sophie. Make this easy on yourself. But Sophie's attention is on Rex, who's moving to a different corner. The dog paws at a shelf, revealing a hidden panel. Inside, she finds tactical gear, including A K9 vest sized perfectly for Rex. Your father cached equipment at each safe house, Mr. Rodriguez explains, helping Sophie secure Rex's vest. He knew you'd need to move quickly, and Rex is trained to operate with full gear. Sophie's hands steady as she checks the vest straps, just as her father had taught her. You're not just a family pet, are you, boy? You're still on mission. Rex's intelligent eyes meet hers as she recites the command phrase from her father's letter. Rex, Phase 2 active. Lead us out. The Belgian Malinois moves instantly, taking point position as they slip through a concealed door moments before. Vega's men breach the main entrance. They're gone, Torres reports, finding only disturbed dust and lingering warmth on the surveillance equipment. But we found this. He holds up a note deliberately left behind. Vega reads it, his face darkening. Martinez is mocking us. This was never about stopping us from finding the evidence. He's making sure we chase it, leading us exactly where he wants us to go. Why? Torres asks. What's his play? He's building a case, piece by piece. Every time we chase them, we expose more of our operation. Martinez is dead, but he's still running the investigation. Outside, police helicopters circle as Rex leads Sophie and Mr. Rodriguez through maintenance tunnels beneath the old ranger station. The dog's tactical training shines as he uses every scrap of cover, every shadow, moving them safely toward their next objective. In the command post, Wilson studies the pattern of Vega's movements. Each response, each deployment, reveals more about their capabilities, information that's being recorded, documented, added to the growing body of evidence. David, you brilliant bastard, she whispers, finally understanding. You're making them tell us exactly who they are. Creating and sharing this story demanded considerable time and effort. If you're enjoying it, please hit subscribe. Your support means everything to us. Now let's continue. The afternoon deepens toward evening as Rex guides his charges through Pine Valley's hidden infrastructure. Behind them, Vega's men follow a trail deliberately left for them. Above, law enforcement responds to sightings and signals, positioning themselves according to a plan laid out 3 years ago. And somewhere ahead, Safe House Bravo waits with its cache of secrets. The next piece in David Martinez's intricate strategy to expose a conspiracy that killed him, a strategy that depends entirely on the training, loyalty, and courage of one extraordinary dog. The setting sun casts strange shadows through Pine Valley's industrial district as Rex leads Sophie and Mr. Rodriguez through a maze of abandoned warehouses. The Belgian Malinois moves with practiced efficiency, his tactical vest allowing him to blend seamlessly with the deepening darkness. Your father and Rex spent weeks practicing urban navigation, Mr. Rodriguez whispers as they pause behind a loading dock. Every route we're taking was carefully selected and rehearsed. Sophie watches Rex's ears, track movement above them. How do you know so much about all this? Because I helped design some of his training protocols, Mr. Rodriguez admits. Before I retired, I worked for military intelligence. Your father knew he needed someone with my background living close by. Rex suddenly freezes, dropping into a combat stance. Seconds later, they hear the whisper of tactical gear against concrete. Vega's men moving into position above them. They're herding us, Mr. Rodriguez realizes, using standard military containment patterns. Good, Sophie says, remembering her father's letter. That's exactly what Dad wanted. In the police command center, Sheriff Wilson tracks multiple signals converging on the industrial zone. They're running a professional tactical containment operation, she tells Rosa over the secure line, way beyond normal cartel capabilities. David's notes mentioned foreign military contractors. Rosa responds from the panic room, reviewing security feeds. Every move they make proves his case about their real identity. Rex leads them through a narrow passage between buildings, his training evident in how he uses available cover. Every few minutes, he performs quick reconnaissance, before choosing their next move. "Hold," Mr. Rodriguez whispers suddenly. "Sophie, look at how Rex is positioning himself. Your father taught specific formations for different situations. This one means multiple threats converging," Sophie finishes. "Dad showed me during our training sessions, but why is he taking us deeper into the containment zone?" Vega watches, his tactical display from the command vehicle growing increasingly frustrated. "They're moving too efficiently," he growls. "The dog's using military escort protocols. Martinez must have repurposed his combat training." "Sir," Torres reports in, "FBI tactical teams are closing in from the east if we don't grab them soon." Martinez planned for that too, Vega realizes. "Every time we escalate, we prove we have law enforcement inside knowledge. The dog isn't just leading them to evidence, it's making us expose our capabilities." Rex guides them into an abandoned machine shop, moving directly to a specific workbench. His paw taps a sequence on the floor, 3 short, 2 long. A pattern Sophie recognizes from their summer training sessions. "Dad called this the emergency fallback protocol," she says, helping Mr. Rodriguez move the workbench. Underneath, they find another hidden cache, fresh supplies, communication equipment, and building plans for Safe House Bravo. "Your father mapped out every possible containment scenario," Mr. Rodriguez explains quickly, distributing the supplies. "Rex is trained to recognize which escape route to use based on enemy deployment patterns." Above them, boots thunder on metal catwalks. Rex's ears prick toward a sound only he can hear, and his body language shifts to high alert. "They're not just coming for us," Mr. Rodriguez says grimly, studying the building plans. "They're trying to drive us towards Safe House Bravo. They think if they control our route, they can grab us when we try to access the second cache." "But Dad would have planned for that too," Sophie finishes. Rex confirms her words by leading them to what appears to be a solid wall. His nose touches specific points, another trained sequence revealing a maintenance tunnel entrance. "Industrial water system access," Mr. Rodriguez explains as they slip inside. "Not on any modern maps. Your father and Rex spent months mapping these routes. Developing this story required significant dedication. If you're enjoying it, please subscribe. Your support drives us to create more content like this. Now back to our story." Vega's frustration peaks as his teams report another lost trail. "They're using infrastructure that doesn't officially exist," he snaps. "Martinez didn't just train the dog for combat, he created an entire urban escape network." In the command center, Wilson begins to see the pattern. Every time Vega's men adjust their tactics, they reveal more about their training. Each radio transmission, each deployment order builds evidence of their true capabilities. "Your son's turning their own professionalism against them," she tells Rosa. "The more efficiently they hunt, the more they prove they're not ordinary criminals." Rex leads them through the tunnel system with unwavering confidence, his military training adapted perfectly for urban evasion. Every movement, every decision reflects countless hours of preparation with David Martinez. "We're not running away," Sophie realizes as they emerge in an unexpected location. "Rex is leading us exactly where Dad wanted them to go. Safe House. Bravo isn't just about finding evidence, it's about making them expose themselves." "Your father knew they'd bring their best teams, use their most advanced tactics," Mr. Rodriguez confirms. "And every time they do, they prove they're not just cartel members. They're something else entirely," Sophie finishes. Rex stops at an intersection, his body language signaling imminent contact. Above ground, Vega's men move with military precision, following what they think is a predictable escape route. None of them realize they're playing their part in a plan 3 years in the making. The sun has fully set now, casting Pine Valley's industrial district into deep shadows. But through those shadows moves a uniquely trained dog, leading his charges. Not away from danger, but toward a carefully planned revelation. Safe House Bravo waits ahead, ready to expose the next layer of a conspiracy that reaches far beyond a small New Mexico border town. Safe House Bravo looms before them, an abandoned cold storage facility on the edge of Pine Valley's industrial district. Rex pauses at the perimeter, his tactical training evident as he performs a final security sweep before leading them to a hidden entrance. "Your father chose this place for a reason," Mr. Rodriguez whispers, helping Sophie navigate the dark corridor. "These walls are 3 feet of concrete and steel. Cold storage units were built like bunkers in the 50s. Sophie watches Rex move to a specific storage unit, his nose working methodically across the door surface. "Unit 247, she says, remembering her father's training sessions. "He used to quiz me about random numbers, said someday they'd be important." Mr. Rodriguez's eyes narrow with understanding. "Combination lock." Rex has been trained to recognize the specific unit. David taught him the sequence during their summer sessions. Rex confirms her words by pouring the floor in a distinct pattern. Sophie spins the dial, muscle memory from countless practice sessions guiding her hands. Inside the unit, they find more than just evidence: tactical gear, communications equipment, and most importantly, a laptop connected to a satellite uplink. "This isn't just documentation," Mr. Rodriguez says, his military intelligence background evident as he scans the files. "Your father uncovered an entire shadow operation. Government officials, military contractors, all working with international criminal organizations." Vega's voice crackles through their stolen radio. "All units converge on the cold storage facility, standard breach and clear procedures. They're not even trying to hide their military protocols anymore," Mr. Rodriguez notes grimly. "Every transmission confirms their training. Your father's plan is working. They're so focused on catching us, they're exposing exactly who they are." In the police command center, Wilson watches the operation unfold. "We've got confirmed transmissions using military encryption," she tells Rosa. "These aren't cartel soldiers, they're government-trained operatives. The second cache proves it." "James found evidence of a secret program," Rosa responds from the panic room, reviewing the data Sophie's transmitting. "Military contractors, hired by corrupt officials to run black operations, using cartel connections for cover. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe. Your support helps us create more content like this. Now, let's continue." Rex suddenly growls a specific tone Sophie recognizes from training. 3 minutes, she translates. Dad taught him different warning signals, standard breach timeline. "Your father planned for this too," Mr. Rodriguez confirms quickly, gathering their gear. They follow Rex to what appears to be a solid wall. The Belgian Malinois touches his nose to specific points, revealing a hidden maintenance shaft. "The whole facility is rigged with sensor panels," Mr. Rodriguez explains as they slip inside. Rex has been trained to activate them in sequence. Every time they chase us, they leave evidence of their capabilities. Vega realizes too late what's happening. "They're recording everything," he growls, watching his tactical teams deploy. "Every radio transmission, every breach procedure. Martinez isn't just exposing our operation, he's proving we have military training." "Sir," Torres reports urgently, "FBI is moving in. They've got our tactical frequencies. Every transmission we make is proof we're not ordinary criminals." "Fall back. Switch to contingency protocols," Vega orders. But Rex is already leading. Sophie and Mr. Rodriguez through the facility's hidden infrastructure. Each move triggers another sensor, another camera cataloging the pursuit team's professional responses. "Your father spent months preparing this," Mr. Rodriguez says as they emerge in an unexpected location. Every safe house is rigged to document their pursuit. The more professionally they chase us, the more they prove Dad was right about who they really are. Through facility feeds, they watch the operation expand. Multiple agencies discovering new layers of the conspiracy with each piece of secured evidence. Rex's training proves invaluable as he helps maintain proper documentation procedures. This is what Dad meant about Rex's final training, Sophie realizes. He's not just leading us to evidence, he's making them create it. Rex's ears suddenly prick forward. Through the walls, they hear Vega's men implementing their contingency protocols, advanced tactical procedures only taught to elite military units. They're switching to Black Ops procedures, Mr. Rodriguez translates, exactly what your father wanted. Now we have proof they're trained in classified military protocols. In the command center, Wilson mobilizes FBI tactical teams. We've got them, she tells Rosa. Every move they make proves they're military-trained operatives. David's evidence is irrefutable now. But Rex is already moving them toward their next objective. The Belgian Malinois leads with purpose, each step part of a carefully choreographed plan 3 years in the making. As night settles over Pine Valley, the true scope of David Martinez's strategy becomes clear. Safe house. Charlie waits ahead, ready to reveal the final piece of evidence that will expose not just a criminal organization, but a conspiracy reaching into the highest levels of government. Pine Valley's industrial district becomes a war zone. As Vega deploys his remaining teams, Rex leads Sophie and Mr. Rodriguez through maintenance tunnels beneath the streets, his military training evident in every calculated move. Above them, tactical teams sweep building to building, their radio transmissions revealing increasingly sophisticated protocols. They're not even trying to hide their military background anymore, Mr. Rodriguez observes, monitoring their stolen radio. Gamma Team, Delta Team, those are Special Forces designations. Sophie watches Rex check another intersection, his body language reading the tactical situation. Dad said Rex was trained to recognize different types of units by how they move. That's why he keeps changing our route. Rex suddenly stops, dropping into a combat stance. Seconds later, they hear boots on metal grating above, a professional sweep team moving into position. Stand back, Mr. Rodriguez whispers, his military intelligence experience taking over. Watch Rex's signals. Your father trained him to indicate different threat levels. The Belgian Malinois' ears track movement precisely, his body shifting to shield Sophie as voices approach their position. Command, this is Delta 3, a voice crackles through their radio, implementing surveillance pattern Echo 7. That's a classified military protocol, Mr. Rodriguez breathes. They're getting desperate, using techniques that prove their real identity. In his command vehicle, Vega realizes his mistake too late. They're documenting everything, he growls, watching his tactical teams deploy. Martinez didn't just gather evidence, he's making us create it ourselves. Sir, Torres reports urgently, FBI is mobilizing their counter-terrorism unit. They've identified our tactical patterns. Of course they have, Vega snaps. That's what Martinez wanted. Every time we use our training, we prove exactly who we are. Rex leads them through a complex series of turns, each move precisely timed to avoid the sweep teams. His combat experience shows in how he uses sound and shadows to mask their movement. Your father and Rex spent months practicing urban evasion, Mr. Rodriguez explains as they pause in a secure position. Every route, every hiding spot, carefully chosen to draw out their pursuit teams. Sophie studies Rex's alert posture. He's not just leading us away from them. Sometimes he deliberately lets them get close, like he's testing their response, forcing them to show their capabilities. Mr. Rodriguez finishes. Your father trained him to provoke specific tactical reactions. Above ground, Wilson coordinates with FBI Tactical Command. We've confirmed military-grade equipment, specialized combat protocols, international secure communications. Everything David documented in the evidence. The second cash transmission just finished, Rosa reports from the panic room. We've got identification on their government contacts. This goes higher than anyone imagined. Rex's ears suddenly prick forward, his warning signal clear. Through the walls, they hear Vega's men implementing another specialized protocol. They're switching to Black Ops procedures, Mr. Rodriguez translates. Digital communications, thermal imaging, sound suppressors, equipment only available to government contractors. Sophie checks their stolen radio as encrypted transmissions begin. More proof, she says. Every time they escalate, they confirm what Dad discovered. Creating and sharing this story requires significant effort. If you're enjoying it, please subscribe. Your support means everything. Now, back to our story. Rex leads them toward what appears to be a dead end, but his nose finds another hidden sensor panel. The wall slides aside, revealing a maintenance elevator shaft. Your father mapped every utility access point in Pine Valley, Mr. Rodriguez explains as they begin their descent. Created an entire underground network that only Rex knows how to navigate. Vega's frustration peaks as his teams lose the trail again. They're using infrastructure that doesn't exist on any current plans, he snaps. Martinez didn't just train the dog for combat. He created an urban warfare maze. Sir, Torres reports, CIA liaison is asking for updates. They're concerned about exposure. They should be, Vega growls. Everything we've done tonight proves we're government-sanctioned. Martinez is turning our own professionalism against us. Rex guides them through the basement level, his movements becoming more purposeful. Each step brings them closer to Safe House Charlie, where David Martinez's final evidence cache waits to expose the full scope of the conspiracy. This was never just about finding evidence, Sophie realizes, as they move through the darkness. Dad knew they'd send their best teams, use their most advanced techniques, and every time they do, they prove his case. Your father's last mission wasn't just gathering evidence, Mr. Rodriguez confirms. It was creating a trap that his enemies would spring themselves. The night deepens as multiple forces converge on Pine Valley. FBI tactical teams move to secure the perimeter. Police establish containment zones. Vega's operatives continue their increasingly desperate pursuit. And through it all, Rex leads his charges toward the final revelation. Every step part of a plan, 3 years in the making. Safe House. Charlie waits ahead, ready to expose not just a criminal organization, but a conspiracy that reaches into the highest levels of international power. And as Rex's ears track movement above, his combat training tells him the hardest fight still lies ahead. Through secure channels, they monitor the unfolding chase across New Mexico's border region. Target approaching Sierra Vista Airfield, Wilson announces, coordinating with pursuit teams. 2 unmarked aircraft on runway, signatures match known. CIA ghost flights. Rex's training kicks in as he activates specialized tracking systems. The dog's military experience proves invaluable as he helps federal teams identify escape vehicles. Multiple agencies coordinate to intercept. FBI, Border Patrol, Air Force, they're all moving to contain the airfield, Wilson updates them. Betty watches Rex guide pursuit teams through tactical displays. Your father knew they'd follow established escape procedures. Everything they're doing now, he prepared Rex to counter. Midnight approaches as Rex leads them through Pine Valley's abandoned train yard. Safe House. Charlie looms ahead, an old signal control building that David Martinez converted into his final stronghold. The Belgian Malinois moves with heightened alertness, his combat training detecting multiple threats converging on their position. 3 helicopters incoming, Mr. Rodriguez warns, checking their stolen radio. Not police, military grade, no radar signatures, black ops. Dad said, if we ever heard silent choppers, it meant government operators, Sophie translates. remembering her father's lessons. Rex suddenly freezes, dropping into an aggressive stance. Through the darkness, they hear boots on gravel, professional operators moving with lethal precision. CIA tactical teams, Mr. Rodriguez whispers, recognizing their movement patterns. Your father was right. This goes all the way to the top. Vega's voice cuts through their radio. All units, full tactical deployment authorized. Forget protocols. Get that dog and the evidence. They're panicking, Mr. Rodriguez observes, as multiple teams converge using classified equipment, advanced tactics. Everything that proves they're government-backed. Rex guides them between freight cars, his military training transforming every shadow into cover. Sophie watches his ears track movement above, operators taking sniper positions on the surrounding buildings. Dad's last message said Rex's final training would activate here, Sophie says, pulling out her father's letter. Something about maximum defensive protocols. Mr. Rodriguez's eyes widen with understanding. Your father didn't just train Rex for evasion. He prepared him for this exact scenario. The Belgian Malinois confirms her words by leading them to what appears to be a maintenance shed. His nose touches specific points, revealing a hidden entrance to Safe House Charlie. Inside, they find more than evidence. Tactical gear, communications equipment, and most surprisingly, a wall of monitors showing live feeds from across Pine Valley. Your father spent months setting this up, Mr. Rodriguez explains, scanning the displays. Every camera they've passed, every sensor they've triggered, it's all been recording their operation. Command, target located, a voice crackles through their radio. Implementing Protocol 0. That's a death squad order, Mr. Rodriguez translates grimly. They're done hiding who they are. If you're enjoying this intense story, please subscribe. Your support helps us create more content like this. Now back to the action. Rex's posture shifts as his final training protocols activate. Sophie watches in amazement as the dog moves to specific positions, triggering defensive systems throughout the building. This is what Dad meant, she realizes. Rex is not just trained to run, he knows how to fight back. In his command vehicle, Vega receives urgent updates. Sir, FBI is moving in force. They've got proof of CIA involvement. NSA's monitoring our channels. Martinez planned this perfectly, Vega growls. We've exposed ourselves trying to catch them. Every move we've made proves we're government operatives. Wilson coordinates with FBI Tactical Command as multiple agencies converge. David Martinez's evidence is confirmed. We've got documented proof of CIA black ops, corrupt officials, international criminal connections. The final cache is transmitting now, Rosa reports from the panic room. Everything David discovered about their operation. It's all coming out. Rex suddenly growls a sound Sophie's never heard before. Through the windows, they see tactical teams taking position around the building. Your father's last protocol, Mr. Rodriguez says, understanding dawning. Rex is not just going to protect us, he's going to help us expose them. The Belgian Malinois moves with deadly purpose, activating systems throughout Safe House Charlie. Security feeds capture every operator's position, every piece of classified equipment they're deploying. ECM jammers, thermal imaging, sound suppressors, Mr. Rodriguez catalogs. All restricted military hardware, more proof of who they really are. Sophie watches Rex coordinate their defense, his years of combat training culminating in this moment. Dad knew they'd come with everything they had. That's exactly what he wanted. Anderson's recording everything. Vega realizes too late the trap they've walked into. Our equipment, our tactics, our communications, everything that proves we're a government black ops unit. Sir, Torres reports urgently, FBI counterintelligence is on scene. They're preparing to move in. Of course they are, Vega snarls. Martinez planned this from the start. We're not just exposed, we're surrounded. Rex takes up his final defensive position as multiple forces converge on Safe House Charlie. His combat training tells him the hardest fight lies ahead, but his mission remains clear: protect Sophie, defend the evidence, expose the truth. The night reaches its darkest point as Pine Valley becomes a battleground. FBI tactical teams prepare to breach. CIA operators move to eliminate witnesses. Police establish containment zones. And at the center of it all, a highly trained military. A dog prepares to fulfill his final mission, exposing a conspiracy that reaches into the highest levels of power. Through facility cameras, they watch Rex's strategy unfold. Every defensive move forces the operators to reveal more of their capabilities. Every countermeasure documents their classified equipment. "Sir, international authorities accessing our tactical feeds," Torres reports desperately. "Interpol, MI6, Mossad, they're all seeing our classified operations." Vega's organization begins to fracture as operators realize the extent of their exposure. All teams fall back to extraction points, implement burnout protocols. But Rex is already moving to counter their retreat. The dog's military training, allowing him to predict and block escape routes, herding operators into federal containment zones. "Your father knew they'd try running once exposed," Mr. Rodriguez explains as Rex coordinates with response teams. Every escape route leads them straight to waiting authorities. Through facility cameras, they watch Vega's operation collapse. Operators abandon classified equipment as they flee. Communication channels fill with panic as agents realize the extent of their compromise. Multiple agencies moving to secure suspects, Wilson reports. International arrest warrants being issued. This conspiracy is being dismantled worldwide. Rex maintains his protective stance as chaos engulfs Pine Valley. His training merges with David Martinez's master plan as federal teams secure the area. This is what Dad meant about Rex's ultimate purpose, Sophie realizes, watching the dog coordinate another defensive sequence. He's not just our protector, he's the key to exposing everything. The first assault on Safe House Charlie begins with an eerie silence. Rex's ears track multiple teams converging through the darkness, his combat training identifying each distinct threat. Thermal cameras show 20 operators taking position around the building, their movements revealing extensive military training. 3-man teams, counterclockwise sweep pattern, Mr. Rodriguez analyzes, watching the security feeds. That's a CIA tactical formation. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Sophie monitors Rex's behavior as the dog moves between defensive positions. Each stance, each alert posture reflects years of military training now focused on this singular moment. "Delta team in position," crackles their stolen radio, implementing Protocol 0. Mr. Rodriguez's face hardens. "That's a Black Ops elimination order. Your father was right about everything." Rex suddenly shifts into aggressive stance, a warning Sophie recognizes from their training sessions. Seconds later, the first flashbangs detonate against the reinforced windows. "They're testing our defenses," Mr. Rodriguez says, moving to the control station. "Standard CIA breach protocol. Your father prepared for this." Rex responds instantly to the attack, activating pre-positioned countermeasures. Security cameras capture every operator's face, every piece of classified equipment, as high-intensity lights flood the perimeter. "Command, we've been compromised," an operator reports. "Target facility has military-grade security systems." Vega's voice cuts through. "I don't care about exposure anymore. Breach the building. Eliminate all witnesses." The assault begins in earnest as multiple teams breach simultaneously. Rex moves with lethal precision, his military training transforming him from family guardian to combat operator. "Look at his movement patterns," Mr. Rodriguez observes as Rex coordinates their defense. "Your father trained him to recognize and counter specific tactical formations. Through the security feeds, they watch Rex's training in action. The Belgian Malinois anticipates each breach point, triggering defensive measures with surgical precision. Smoke generators activate at crucial moments, disrupting thermal imaging. Strobes disorient night vision equipment. They're using classified military hardware. Mr. Rodriguez catalogs as cameras record the assault. ECM jammers, next-gen thermal, sound suppressors, all restricted to government operators. More proof. Every piece of equipment they use proves they're not ordinary criminals, Sophie realizes, understanding her father's strategy. Creating this story requires dedication and time. If you're enjoying it, please subscribe. Your support means everything. Now back to the intense action. Rex suddenly barks a specific pattern, 3 short, 2 long. Sophie recognizes the signal from their training sessions. Secondary breach imminent, she translates, moving to the backup controls. Dad made sure I knew all Rex's warning signals. The dog's prediction proves accurate as explosive charges detonate against the rear entrance. Rex responds instantly, positioning himself between Sophie and the threat. Sir, target's got military-grade countermeasures, Torres reports to Vega. Martinez equipped them with our own hardware. Of course he did, Vega snarls. He's using our own tactics against us. Every move we make proves his case about who we really are. In the FBI command post, Wilson watches the operation unfold through surveillance feeds. We've got confirmed CIA tactical teams using classified equipment. Everything David documented is being validated in real time. The final evidence cache is still transmitting, Rosa reports from the panic room. Every agency in the country is seeing proof of this conspiracy. Rex's ears suddenly prick toward a new threat. Through the smoke, they hear rappel lines deploying on the roof. Vertical assault teams, Mr. Rodriguez identifies. They're using every tactic in the Special Operations Playbook. The Belgian Malinois responds with practiced efficiency, each movement reflecting countless training scenarios. He guides Sophie and Mr. Rodriguez to hardened positions as the assault intensifies. Your father and Rex spent months preparing for this exact situation, Mr. Rodriguez explains between explosions. Every countermeasure, every defensive position, carefully planned. Sophie watches Rex coordinate their defense with military precision. He's not just protecting us, she realizes. He's making them expose themselves. Through their stolen radio, they hear the frustration mounting. Command, target facility is hardened beyond civilian specs. They've got military countermeasures for everything we throw at them. Push harder, Vega orders. Use everything we've got. Authorization Omega-7. That's a classified assault protocol, Mr. Rodriguez translates grimly. They're about to hit us with restricted military hardware. Rex's posture shifts as new threats emerge. Operators deploy sonic weapons, breach, charges, even toxic gas, all documented by the facility's cameras. Each piece of equipment they use is restricted to government agencies, Mr. Rodriguez explains as Rex triggers countermeasures. Your father knew they'd have to expose their full capabilities. The assault reaches its peak as multiple teams breach simultaneously. Rex moves like a gray ghost through the chaos, his military training evident in every calculated response. Look at his tactical patterns, Mr. Rodriguez observes. He's not just defending, he's forcing them to adapt, to use increasingly specialized techniques. Sophie understands the strategy now. Dad trained him to provoke specific responses. The more they escalate, the more they prove they're government operators. Your father turned their own professionalism against them, Mr. Rodriguez finishes. Rex suddenly freezes, his combat instincts detecting a new threat. Through the smoke and chaos, they hear helicopter rotors, almost silent, using classified stealth technology. CIA Wetworks team, Mr. Rodriguez identifies. They're bringing in their cleanup crew. But Rex is already moving to counter this threat too. The Belgian Malinois activates the final defensive protocols, his training culminating in this moment. "Sir, FBI tactical teams are moving in," Torres reports desperately. "They've got everything on camera. Our equipment, our tactics, our communications. Martinez planned this perfectly," Vega realizes too late. The dog wasn't just trained. For protection, it was trained to expose us. Through the facility cameras, they watch Rex's strategy unfold. Every defensive move forces the operators to reveal more of their capabilities. Every countermeasure documents their classified equipment. "This is what Dad meant about Rex's final training," Sophie says as the dog coordinates their defense. "He's not just a guardian, he's the key to exposing everything." If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe. Your support drives us to create more content like this. Now, back to the intense action. The night reaches its crescendo as multiple forces converge on Safe House Charlie. FBI teams move to intercept CIA operators, police establish containment zones, and at the center of it all, a highly trained military dog executes a plan 3 years in the making. The evidence continues transmitting as Rex holds their position. Every moment of the assault is documented, proving David Martinez's claims about government corruption, classified operations, and international conspiracy. "Your father knew they'd come with everything they had," Mr. Rodriguez says, watching Rex coordinate another defensive sequence. "That's exactly what he wanted. Every piece of classified equipment, every restricted tactic proves who they really are." The assault continues through the night, but Rex's training never falters. The Belgian Malinois moves with practiced precision, protecting his charges while helping expose one of the largest government conspiracies in history. The assault on Safe House Charlie enters its second hour as FBI tactical teams arrive in force. Rex monitors the changing battlefield, his military training identifying friendly forces among the chaos. Through the facility's reinforced windows, emergency lights paint the smoke-filled night in strobing red and blue. FBI breach teams moving into position, Mr. Rodriguez announces, monitoring their tactical frequency. They're establishing a containment corridor. Sophie watches Rex's posture shift as he processes the new variables. The Belgian Malinois moves with increased confidence, his training adapting to the changing situation. "Look at his tactical positioning," Mr. Rodriguez observes. "Your father trained him to recognize friendly forces by their movement patterns." Vega's voice cuts through their stolen radio, tension evident. All teams fall back to secondary positions. Implement scorched earth protocols. "They're going to try destroying evidence of their operation," Mr. Rodriguez translates, his military intelligence experience reading between the lines. Standard CIA cleanup procedure. Rex suddenly alerts to new movement, operators attempting to recover their classified equipment. The dog's training kicks in as he coordinates with FBI teams through pre-programmed responses. "Your father taught him specific protocols for this scenario," Mr. Rodriguez explains, as Rex guides FBI tactical units through their defense network. "He's not just protecting us anymore, he's helping federal agents secure evidence." Through the security feeds, they watch Rex's strategy unfold. The Belgian Malinois uses their defensive systems to herd CIA operators into FBI containment zones. Each movement forces Vega's men to abandon more classified equipment. "Command, we're losing tactical advantage," Torres reports desperately. Martinez's dog is coordinating with FBI teams. It's been trained for joint operations. "Impossible," Vega snarls, but the evidence plays out before them. Rex moves with practiced precision, his military training seamlessly integrating with FBI tactical protocols. Final evidence cache transmission complete, Wilson announces from the FBI command post. We've got documented proof of everything. Classified operations, government corruption, international criminal connections. Maggie's voice carries pride through their secure line. David knew exactly what he was doing. Rex is not just a trained military dog, he's the key to his whole investigation. The Belgian Malinois suddenly shifts stance, detecting a new threat pattern. Through the chaos, they hear helicopter rotors approaching, military gunships using classified stealth technology. CIA is bringing in heavy support, Mr. Rodriguez warns, recognizing the sound signature. They're desperate enough to risk exposing classified aircraft. But Rex is already moving to counter this escalation. The dog activates specialized protocols, his training anticipating this exact scenario. Look at these movement patterns, Mr. Rodriguez says, watching Rex coordinate their defense. Your father trained him to recognize and counter specific military assets. Sophie understands now, watching Rex work. Every response they send, every piece of equipment they use, proves exactly who they are. Through their tactical network, they hear Vega's growing desperation. I don't care about exposure anymore. Bring in everything we've got. Authorization, Omega Black. That's a scorched earth protocol, Mr. Rodriguez translates grimly. They're going to try leveling the entire facility. Rex responds to the threat instantly, his training shifting to maximum defensive posture. The dog moves between stations, activating countermeasures specifically designed for this scenario. Sir, target facility has military-grade anti-aircraft defenses, an operator reports. Martinez prepared for everything, Vega growls. He knew exactly what assets we'd deploy. Every move we make validates his evidence. FBI tactical teams secure the perimeter as Rex coordinates facility defense. The Belgian Malinois' movements reflect years of specialized training, now focused on this crucial moment. Multiple agencies responding, Wilson updates them. NSA, Homeland Security, military intelligence, they're all seeing proof of this conspiracy in real time. Sophie watches Rex direct FBI teams through their defense network. Dad spent years preparing him for this exact situation. Your father knew they'd bring everything they had, Mr. Rodriguez explains, as Rex counters another assault team. Each response exposes more of their classified capabilities. The night erupts in chaos as CIA gunships begin their attack run. Rex's training proves invaluable as he activates automated defense systems, forcing the aircraft to expose their classified signatures. Command, we're detecting multiple federal response teams, Torres reports frantically. FBI, ATF, Homeland Security, they're all moving to secure evidence. Vega's frustration peaks as his operation collapses. Martinez planned this perfectly. His dog isn't just defending them, it's coordinating a multi-agency takedown. Through the facility's cameras, they watch Rex's master strategy unfold. Every defensive move forces CIA operators to abandon more classified equipment. Every countermeasure documents their restricted tactics. This is what Dad meant about Rex's ultimate training, Sophie realizes, as the dog coordinates another defensive sequence. He's not just protecting us, he's exposing their entire operation. Dawn breaks over the federal courthouse as security teams prepare for tomorrow's first trial. Rex patrols their secure quarters, his military training now focused on an unprecedented challenge, protecting his family during international court proceedings. The Belgian Malinois' movements reflect his specialized courthouse training, another layer of David Martinez's careful preparation. Multiple agencies confirming security protocols, Wilson reports, reviewing final arrangements. Rex's courtroom certification has been validated. He'll be allowed to maintain protective position during testimony. Mr. Rodriguez watches the dog methodically check entry points, his training adapting to the new environment. Your father spent weeks teaching him courthouse procedures. Rex knows exactly how to handle judicial settings. Through secure monitors, they watch news coverage intensifying. Historic trials begin tomorrow. Martinez family testimony key to exposing international corruption network. Rex's presence sets legal precedent, Wilson explains, reviewing protocols. First military K9 authorized for witness protection during international proceedings. Sophie observes Rex's practiced movements, noting how he maps escape routes while maintaining family oversight. Dad really did think of everything, even trained him for courtroom security. David knew these trials would be crucial, Mr. Rodriguez confirms, as Rex demonstrates his specialized training. He made sure Rex could protect you while justice was served. Through facility feeds, they monitor final preparations. International. Prosecutors arriving, multiple defendants facing charges across 3 continents. Rosa discovers another message from David, this one specifically addressing the trials. The courtroom phase will be challenging, but Rex's training includes every aspect of judicial security, Mr. Rodriguez explains, as the dog patrols their quarters. Your father worked with legal experts to ensure Rex's courthouse presence would be authorized. His military background and specialized training make him uniquely qualified. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe. Your support means everything to us. Now for the conclusion. Through secure channels, they hear ongoing coordination, unprecedented security measures in place, military K9's presence approved by international tribunal. Rex's role goes beyond protection now, Wilson notes, watching the dog work. His presence represents everything this case stands for: loyalty, justice, truth, and D. The Belgian Malinois demonstrates this as he guides them through courthouse protocols. His military precision now serves the cause of justice while maintaining family security. Look how he's processing everything, Sophie observes as Rex maps the courtroom layout, learning entry points, exit routes, security positions, just like Dad taught him. 6 months after the trials, autumn sunlight warms the Martinez's new home in a peaceful Montana valley. Rex patrols the property's perimeter, his military training now focused on a different kind of protection. The Belgian Malinois moves with the same precision, but there's contentment in his stride as he guards his family's fresh start. International courts have finished the last cases, Wilson reports during her final visit. Every conspirator David identified has been brought to justice. His evidence changed everything. Mr. Rodriguez watches Rex guide Sophie through their morning routine, the dog's protective instincts perfectly balanced with gentle affection. Your father created something remarkable, not just exposing corruption, but ensuring you'd have the strength to build something new. Through their secured channels, they monitor the lasting impact. Martinez evidence reforms reshaping global law enforcement, military K9 protocols, revolutionizing witness protection. Dad would love it here, Sophie says, watching Rex inspect. Their new greenhouse, all this space for Rex to run, mountains to explore, peace to heal. Rosa discovers one final letter from David, marked simply, "For the future." Rex settles between them as she reads, maintaining his protective watch while offering comfort. "My dear family," David's words flow. "If you're reading this, then everything we fought for has been achieved. The truth exposed, justice served, a new life beginning. But Rex's mission continues, not just as protector, but as your partner in building something beautiful from all we've endured." Through quiet afternoon hours, they watch Rex adapt to their new routines. His military training now serves gentler purposes, securing garden boundaries, checking hiking trails, watching over family picnics. "Look at him," Sophie observes, as Rex guides them along mountain paths, still vigilant, still protective, but so content, like he knows we're exactly where we should be. The world's forever changed, Wilson reflects, reviewing final reports. David Martinez's legacy reaches far beyond exposed corruption. He showed us the true meaning of protection. Rex demonstrates this as he plays with Sophie in Autumn Leaves, his combat skills transformed into joyful agility. The Belgian Malinois proves that warriors can find peace without losing their strength. Your father's last gift, Mr. Rodriguez explains, watching them together. Not just justice served, but a future filled with possibility. As stars emerge over Montana mountains, Rex maintains his eternal vigil, his training, loyalty, and love combined to guard something precious. A family healing, finding joy, building new dreams. Some soldiers never truly retire, they just find more beautiful things to protect, more precious moments to guard, more love to keep safe. And in the quiet of their mountain valley, under stars that shine like promise, a highly trained military dog continues his most important duty, protecting the family that helped expose truth while they build something beautiful from justice. Served. Up next, 2 more incredible stories are waiting for you right on your screen. If you enjoyed this one, you won't want to miss these. Just click to watch and don't forget to subscribe. It would mean a lot.